Check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, Coach Jay, can hear you loud and clear. Welcome back at the buzzers.
Welcome back to our buzzer beaters. Hopefully everybody had a good day today. Let's get a sound and video check. Shout out to Bruno, audio, video. Wait, is that Bruno? No, Andrew's back. What up, Andrew? I didn't even realize I was talking to Andrew in the mod chat. What is going on, Andrew? Hopefully your trip to Seattle was a good one. But we got a confirmation. Audio, video is good. Welcome everyone to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. This is our first time meeting. I'm Coach Jay, been a Topstep Performance Coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 12 years and in the futures markets for the past 5. And that's Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for a year and a half as a performance coach. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share my experience and knowledge and assist you in becoming a better trader.
Awesome. We appreciate it. Thank you, Coach Paul. Shout out to Coach Vince in the chat. Also, Coach Vince is going to be joining me for slow markets tonight. I am going to take over for Dakota one more night while he recovers. Coach Vince is going to be joining me tonight. So if you normally join Coach Vince in Discord, he will be with me tonight for slow markets. Had a great ES trade today. He was talking to me in the chat. Got short the ES from, I think, 78 and held it to the lows of the day. So we'll talk to Coach Vince about that trade. How was your day today, Coach?
Good day. The yen and the 10-year helped me,
Yeah,
but the volatility, and we'll go over this in the equities, was it didn't destroy me, but I was trading micro, and it still was vicious,
yeah,
some vicious rips. So overall, good day, but we'll go over it about just how to size down in these kind of markets.
100%. We did just get Nike earnings that came out talking about the news. Nike looks like they beat on their earnings. If you've been paying attention to the kind of athletic wear and sneaker market, it's been said that Nike has been losing some market share with some other companies, Adidas, Under Armour, Puma, taking over. Coach, you probably see it. I don't know how many of your kids are wearing different brands now. I feel like 10 years ago, everyone had different Nike sneakers, but now it's Pumas or Adidas or whatever it is. But with these earnings numbers, looks like Nike's still doing well, leading the pack. Nike's like the Apple of the sneaker market, right? It's almost synonymous with any sport. Nike's out there, but other news we had today, jobless claims came in at 220,000. What was forecast was 230,000. We also did get a GDP number as well, came in at 3.1%. Forecast was 2.8. And existing home sales, 4.15%, and the forecast was 4.08%. Anything you got on the news, Coach?
Nothing else outside of that Nike news. What's interesting is Nike, as big as it is, it's more centric to the United States.
Yeah,
Adidas, as the
yeah,
rest of the world knows Adidas, just everything else pales in comparison to what they do
yeah.
because of soccer.
Yep,
Um,
makes sense.
Actually, I talked to an Adidas guy once, and he goes, "We're in the U.S. market because we kind of
Have to
have
be.
to." But yeah,
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
it's just funny. We look at market share, but you're right. It Nike doesn't have that domination with, especially with the younger players.
Yep.
Um, but I've said it all the way through. The shoe does not make the player.
Definitely
Um,
does not. Is it the
so
shoes? It's not the
is
shoes.
it the shoe? It's not the shoes.
That was marketing to
Yeah,
make
that
everyone
pure
believe that it
marketing.
was the shoes. Yeah. Um, What do you think of setting a daily target of $200? Getting right to the questions from Adam. Uh, I don't see anything wrong with that if you want to cut yourself off after making $200. The only thing I don't like about daily monetary targets, and coach, I want your opinion on this too. Um, what happens if you don't hit that target, right? Sometimes setting that target means makes it a goal, and I have to hit 200 no matter what. I've seen traders get to 180 and then need to take another trade in order to get to that 200 and then wind up losing it. So, if you make 200 and say, hey, yeah, I want to cut myself off from that point, great. But setting it as, and it could potentially act as a ceiling as well, right? Look at a day like yesterday. Um, do you get short in the equity markets, make your $200, cut yourself off, and the market drops another 900 points? Are you okay with saying, I'm done trading at that point? Right. So uh, I think it's a different decision for each person. What do you think on that, coach? Setting a daily profit target.
I don't do it. And it really it depends on your trading strategy, but you can get hurt by cutting off a profitable day. Um, so it's a little tricky. You know, like you said yesterday, if you had a sell and you only took 200 and you could have made 6 to 800,
Hmm.
just getting out because it's 200, um, that can hurt in the long term. But what's the other side? What are you cutting your losses?
Right.
Um, so I prefer not to. Um, but if you were running and like if your process is running at 80% winning days, all right. What if it's at 50%? Then I would have a lot of concern. So without knowing the whole process, um, I'd hesitate to say it's good or bad, but I don't overall, I personally don't. What's to stop you from losing? I mean, what's your on the other side, your downside? To lose no more than 200? Then if you're at
Right.
50%, you're not going to get anywhere. Um, I I would look at your historical returns, um, and see what the percentage of winning days and losing days are, and make a determination from there.
Awesome. Thank you for that, coach. Let's look at the markets. There are about 35 different markets we can trade with Top Step accounts, not just the equities. And we'd like to focus on the biggest percentage movers. Uh, to the
Hey,
downside, we go ahead, coach.
one more thing on that before I lose it.
Yep.
Remember and with that, remember the formula for successful trading is to cut your losses and let your winners ride. So that's another reason why I hesitate. You really don't want to cut off your winners.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed.
So,
Let's just keep going with these questions real quick. We'll get into the quote board. We got a question from Kevin. Why is it so hard stepping away? I think it's because the nature of sometimes the way we view the markets is every time we sit here is an opportunity to make money. Uh, the What gets neglected in that thought is that every time you look at the charts is also an opportunity to lose money. Uh, so we have to be kind of diligent in the process of taking good trade setups, because every time you look at a chart, when you click a button, you're either going to make money or lose money, and a lot of times we only look at the upside of that. So just be conscious of that, right? Not every trade decision that you make is going to be a profitable one, and even if it is profitable, it's not always going to be a good decision, right? So the goal should be, if you're sitting at your desk, I'm only making good decisions regardless of the results. Uh, but I think that's why it's so hard to walk away.
yeah, that's the emotional part.
Yep.
Um, Another name for is chasing losses. Um, well, but if I just take one more trade, I can cut this loss down, and then there's nothing to stop that from growing again because we just cut off that part. Um, that goes back to cutting your losses and let your winners ride, and also having a percentage, a set percentage of how much your equity can lose in a day. Um, we went over that yesterday, and I'll say it again. I personally, it's 12%, 12 to 15%. Stop. There's a very, very high probability that you're on tilt and you're not following your trading rules. You're just trading to make money. And if trading to make money was the key, then we'd all be rich.
All right. Thank you for that, coach. But great questions. Great questions to start the conversation. Let's get into the quote board. To the downside, we had copper down 1.8%, micro Bitcoin futures down 3.35%, and silver, our biggest percentage mover, to the downside at 4.03%. To the upside, we had the Nikkei up 1.4%, soybean meal up 1.78%. And is anybody surprised? Nat gas, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, 7.5%. That is every day this week. Nat gas is either the top percentage mover to the up or downside, um, every day this week. And even going back to last week, I think it's still in there. Uh, we
It's a
have to look at the
volatile
chart.
one.
Yeah, it is. We're not going to look at crude oil today. We're going to look at net gas, because that is the energy market that is moving right now. To round out our big four, we have the S&Ps flat on the day, which is pretty crazy. The Nasdaq down 0.48%, crude oil down 1.1%, and gold down 1.6% for our biggest percentage mover in the big four. I got the Nasdaq chart up here right now, coach. Framed out the daily range from yesterday. Yesterday, we know we had that 1,000 point sell off. Let me make sure I include the whole range. 22,387 was the high, 21,311 was the low. 50% of that was 21,849. What did you see? I know you said that the equities were pretty choppy today. Got your moving averages up here, coach. We're under the 200. The 50 is a straight line to the downside. What did you see in the equities today, coach?
A dead cat bounce.
Yep.
Um, for cat lovers, I apologize. Maybe a dead possum bounce. Either
Dead
way,
brick.
it was a dead brick. But as you said, it was S&P is unchanged, violently unchanged, which is another word for volatility. And maybe this is a good time to go into how volatile it is today.
Yep.
If we look at a 5-minute chart,
Okay.
and let's look at the average true range.
We'll go to the kind of middle part of the day where we had some of the most
Yeah,
volume. Anywhere from 40, 50. We'll call it 46 to 50
points.
points in a 5 minute candle.
So in a 5-minute candle, so let's just say it's $1,000 range in the mini Nasdaq in 5 minutes. Now, let's keep that in mind. Let's go to yesterday around the same time.
In the morning, pre FOMC, we were right around 40, 35 to 40. After
All right, let's go
FOMC,
to the
50s.
and let's go to the day before.
Same thing. In the morning, we were in the mid 20s to low 30s pretty much all day.
So mid 20s, let's say 25.
Yep.
So it's twice as volatile. At one point today, it was 3 times as volatile on average on a longer term. So if you're trading the same size, it's 2 to 3 times. This is just call it 2.5 times the size you were trading by volatility standards. And it's really important to know. And the size of the whips are even worse. I mean, there was 100-point swings in 5 minutes.
Yeah, pretty wild day. Pretty
Um,
wild day.
so after yesterday's move, there were really there really wasn't much compared to yesterday, which was straight down volatility.
Correct.
Which direction? This is where if you're not managing your risk or you can't stop trading and you ignore all the guardrails to keeping your account alive, it's just a matter of time. There's really, I mean, who makes money on a day like today? Overall, market makers,
Yeah. Yep.
because we discussed this yesterday. But yeah, that's where understanding the volatility through average true range is really important. If you don't trade size down, cut your size at least in half, you're got a high probability of losing more than you planned on, and then the emotional toll. Like, what the heck just happened? I just dropped $1,000, and I think I saw some comments here. I started out down 1,500. I started out down 1,800, scratched back. Um, so I'm sure you weren't planning to start that way.
Right.
So referencing the ATR in your time frame and understanding that will help you determine position size. If it's just I'm a 2 lot mini trader, come hell or high water, then you have to be right. But there is nothing to say this trade is going to be a winner, right? That just doesn't work that way.
Yep.
So if you start off with the loser, that's how we lose control. So
I'm
pay
just
attention. Wow.
just going back here, you can see with this ATR indicator, like we said, we were for the 5 minute chart, we were in the 50s at the peak of the volatility today. I just kind of scrolled back. We can see this blue line is right around that 50 level. I'm going back to, let's see the last time we hit that.
Probably July.
Pretty close in here in October. But we're consistently under that blue line almost every day, right? So that volatility that coach is talking about, it's rare to see, right? So it may feel like the same markets, and the setups are still the same. And I see some people in the chat saying that, oh, well, I made money today, and that's fine. People are going to make money today, but we can't deny the fact that there is increased volatility in these markets. That might mean you make money faster if you're on the right side of the markets. But to me, what it does mean, especially when on a shorter time frame, we're looking at a 5 minute chart. We have traders that trade on a 1 minute chart. This wasn't a clean directional move on those time frames, right? Yesterday with that sell off, we had increased volatility all in one direction. Like coach was saying, if you got short here because you thought the market was going lower and you didn't have great trade location, in 5 minutes there's 100 points in the opposite direction, right? So you know trading smaller, trade location obviously is going to matter. Uh, Finding the direction in the market. The market did move to the downside today. It just wasn't a clean move. My first trade of the day in my XFA was at 21,667 for a short up here. Same setup that we take all the time. or that we talk about all the time. VWAP left the range. This is a 5-minute range, but you guys normally know I do it on the 3-minute, but we rejected right at 50% of it. VWAP left the range. I took a short. Could I have held that trade all day? I could have. I would have been okay. The only way I was going to hold that trade all day is if I took a nap or if I walked away completely from the screens and didn't look at it. And looking at this price action, I wasn't willing to do that, right? It did feel like, yes, we were moving to the downside. There wasn't a bid in the markets, but it did feel like at any point that was a possibility, right? There wasn't that convinced selling move that we saw yesterday. So in market conditions like this, I'm okay taking profits when they present them. And like we talked about, they did present them faster, right? You get a 100-point move in a couple of minutes. I did my job. I am going to get out. And I pretty much bought the high of the market, sold the high of the market at that point, right? We never revisited that entry. I'm okay taking my piece of it because the mental capital that I preserve, not having to sit through this, is worth it. Anything else you got on the equity markets, Coach?
Yeah, just looking at that setup, I mean, it was a sell, or
Mhm.
I should say the market was being sold. If you look at it with VWAP leaving that opening 3 minutes, but once again, like you just said, you're short. Let's say you're up 100, and all of a sudden, you know, 5 minutes later, you're unchanged.
Right.
It's hard mentally to do that. Um, so if you were selling breakouts, new lows, every time you did that, you felt pain.
Yep.
But you know, there's places to buy it, and I'm not. We're not here to tell you a trading system, but really the key is understand volatility so you don't overtrade or oversize.
Let's look at a higher time frame chart. I know I was looking for, and we talked about this in slow markets yesterday. Maybe looking for that dead cat bounce or dead brick bounce to get up to 850, which was 50% of yesterday's range. We didn't get there. These markets still look pretty heavy in the medium time frame. Higher time frame, we're clearly still in an uptrend. That 50-day moving average, Coach, the purple line down here, we are less than let me get this out of here. Just over 1% away from that 50-day moving average. Seems like a target. Of course, anything can and will happen, but closing under that 20 moving average for the second day in a row, markets look pretty heavy, pretty big wick at the top of this daily candle. Looks heavy.
Yeah, it still looks heavy. I mean, considering that 1,000 point move, a huge wick, we didn't even get halfway. We're still under the 20, which was kind of the high. Um, but you know, I will know more tomorrow.
We will know more tomorrow.
um, we're not investors, so could this turn around and rip higher? Absolutely, it could. I don't know until we trade in the present, but overall, it's challenged. Um, just you can just feel it too. There's not much confidence, you know, and that's where you get
Yeah,
whipping markets.
right. Let's look at the S&Ps, and we got some questions coming in here. One from Paul H. Paul H also says, hit the like. It's in his name, so we got to do it. It's in his name. Uh, I find if hi coaches, I find if my available equity is less than 1K after a series of bad days, I get triggered into blowing it. I can always reset, but I'm worried that in a live account you can't do that. I do like 12.5% daily loss limit. That is great until less than 1K. What would you say to that, coach? You might have a balance in your account, $3,000, but you hit a streak of losing days. Now you have $1,000 left. Things feel a little tight. Maybe you start thinking, this is the end of the road here potentially. and the walls are closing in. And sometimes we see traders take that approach. It's just like, oh, well, you know what? F it. It's either going to work or it's not. Because I can always hit the reset button. What would you say to that?
Well, one thing, it's less than 1,000. It's still your account. I understand that you got to limit it to let's say 100. Let's just make it $150.
Mhm.
Well, then you have to size down because the bottom line is you don't have the capital.
Right.
But you have to trade your capital. So if your capital is 1,000, you know, it's $150 to max 200.
Mhm.
Um, and sooner or later you're going to have to figure out when you're on the ropes how to play defense.
Right.
And um, it still comes down to keeping that account alive. Now, if you had the breakdown because you weren't following your plan, that's the bigger problem.
Right.
Um, that's where you're like, I don't care, you didn't follow your plan, and it's easy. I mean, this is what's so hard about trading, right? Because
Yeah.
it's you against you. It's thing one against thing two. Um, and you have to answer honestly what happened that I got that big of a drawdown. And if it's most likely you weren't trading your plan, you have an answer that is more important than keeping that account alive. It's I'm not disciplined enough to follow the rules. By the way, it's very common. I've done it.
Yep.
That's why you hear me just preach. It's 12.5%. At least what I don't have that huge drawdown.
Yeah.
And consistently, you tell me, coach, how many times do we see that?
A lot, a lot, a good amount. We actually talked about this a little bit yesterday when we got off, and trading is not an easy thing to do, right? Will. Somebody actually said that to me on Topstep TV in the chat yesterday. They were just like, you make this seem so easy. If I ever tried to make this seem easy, let me tell you here and now, this is not an easy thing to do, right? We have to accept that that is a fact. But some of the things that we're saying, and coach, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, uh, are choices that we make. Now, I think we have to come to the realization that some of the choices that we make may not be in the best interest of the goals we're setting for ourselves, right? We may say that I want to do this, but the choices we make say something different. And we got to be aware of that, right? If that's the case, and then work on making different choices, um, which is hard, which is hard. It goes for pretty much anything, right? If I make my goal uh, gaining 20 pounds of muscle, but my choices are I'm never going to go to the gym. My choices don't align with my goals. And if I just eat all day, I might gain 20 pounds, but it's not going to be a muscle, right? So identifying a goal and then making the choices to align with that goal are what we have to do. And it sounds very simple, but it's a difficult thing to do because a lot of times the easier choice to make is the emotional one. Um, and the one that alleviates the pressure, right? If you're making the choice to say, I have to scale down and I have to stick to a trading plan and I have to accept losses, uh, those are the hard choices, right? Those are I got to eat my vegetables. I got to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym all the time. I got to do the things that I don't want to do. Um, and I think that's why it gets easy. I'm going on a little bit of a rant here, so you can cut me off whenever you
No,
want, coach.
please. No,
But
no, no. This is really important because I'm about to add to it too when
oh
you're
yeah.
done.
So just be conscious of that. I've been conscious of it, right? I've had traders ask me, "Hey, why are you not in a live account with Topstep?" The choices that I've made this year are the reason I'm not, right? So my goal: make better choices. But I'm gonna throw it to you, coach.
All right. Maybe. Um, I say it too much, but I don't think I do. The idea
Yeah.
is to manage the account.
Yep.
And we just taught the basic principles: cut your losses and let your winners ride. All simple advice. You can find it all over Twitterverse
Yep.
because they talk about their winners, but the difference is you have to be able to take good losses. Best loser wins, right? It's not easy and it's counterintuitive. Um, so I'm gonna just go over the 7 principles of consistent winners that we've talked about before, and we haven't talked about it in a while. It's in the book Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. If you have not read that, buy it, read it. Um, here are the 7 principles. Objectively identify your edge. What does that mean? Create a plan, a trading plan, objectively that you can execute. You might not be able to execute someone else's, right? And that's one of the things I can go in another time. But it has to be something that you can execute comfortably.
Yep.
Before you enter the market, you have to predefine your risk. If you're guilty, and it is very common, well, I really don't. I want to do this trade. I want to buy this, and you don't put a stop in. You're really not predefining your risk, and you're not following a plan. You are following what?
Your emotions.
Your emotions, your thing too. All right. It's extremely important. Number 3, completely accept the risk or let the trade go. And that's how it's another one. Sounds easy. It's not as easy as it sounds
Right.
because, and that's why you hear me say you're just trying to make money. And it sounds crazy, right? What does he mean? I mean, of course, I'm trying to make money. But if you don't accept or predefine the risk, then you're just trying to make money because you're not saying that you're not really facing the risk. And this is principles of consistent winners. So you accept the risk or you let the trade go. I don't, and that's bigger than I think a lot of people really understand. If you find yourself getting into trades and you're like, as soon as they're going against you, you're like, "Ah, fuck, oh man, you got whatever you're feeling anxiety or doubt, then
Yep.
you have not accepted the risk.
Which is,
And
I think, is okay. Because if you're not going to accept it, like you said, take the trade off. It's better than having to accept it after the fact where, if there's something telling you maybe take it off, take it off. If it goes without you, we had an example of that in the house account today when I was on with Deanna and Coach Robert. We took a short. Um, I think all of us agreed that, hey, the market isn't doing what we want it to do. And I'm no longer okay taking that risk. I'm not going to accept it anymore. So at that point, I've made a decision and I got to just live with the results of my decision. It's either going to work out or it's not, but live with the results and identify whether or not you want to take that risk. Go ahead, keep going, coach.
all right, number 4, act on your edge without hesitation, confidence. So you've you've accepted the risk. You have gone back and studied a trading plan, right? You have you predefined, accept the risk. You put it on without hesitation. This is what I'm looking for. It builds confidence. If once you're into that mind, this is a winner's attitude. Okay, I'm putting this on, and if I lose the money that I predefined, I'm good because then I don't have to sit there and watch every tick. If you're watching every tick and it's for you and against you, You're not accepting the risk. You're not trading confidently, are you? So you act on your edge without hesitation. You pay yourself as the market makes money available. So it hits your objective. It's 2 to 1, 1 to 1, whatever, and that's part of your trading plan. That's part of your edge. You don't say, "Oh, man, it hit my target. I'm going to let it go a little more. I'd like a little more." It's called greed. All right, that's another
Yep.
one. You
But
take when the money's there, take it. Number 6. And this is really important. Goes back into the loop. You continually monitor yourself for susceptibility for making errors. That's a hard one, right?
yeah. Why do
You
you say that's
have
a hard one, Coach? And
w-
I agree with you 100%.
because this time it's different.
Yep.
I'm going to take this trade because I kind of like it. It's part of my plan, but I just take this one. Or I know I shouldn't, but I need to make some money to make back this loss. That's what is that? That's an error. So you have to really always monitor yourself. Is this part of my plan? If it's not, I'm not taking it. So now you're actually exposing yourself to a proper risk. Really, trading is about exposing yourself to risk.
Yep.
If you're just the difference between careless and executing a plan is real thin. The moment you touch taking trades outside of your plan because maybe it's going to make money, you are susceptible and you made an error. And it's so easy because if you're staring at the screen all day, you're going to find a reason. So,
100%.
and the final one, understand the absolute necessity for these principles of consistent success and never violate them. I have those over my desk. See it every day.
And Coach,
It's helped me.
just to confirm, these are in Trading in the Zone, correct?
Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. Get the book.
Awesome. I just, I found this in Discord. Hopefully, you don't mind me taking your screenshot here, Coach. But if you guys want to take a picture of this and have it up there, or just want to kind of quickly read through the rules or the principles that Coach just went through, we have them up there on the screen for you all. Really appreciate you going through those, Coach. I know we've done that a couple of times in Discord when we were running at the buzzer there. We haven't done it since we've been on YouTube, and I think it was a great time to kind of go through this stuff. Um, Great way to keep
Yeah.
the conversation going. Anything else you got on these, Coach?
Um, those are the 7. Get the book.
Get the book.
And Coach, I'm off. I don't see the
Oh, you don't see my
broadcast.
screen?
No.
Uh, there you go. You see it now? You should be
No.
seeing it. Oh, give me 1 second. There you go. Now you should see it.
There we go.
There we go. So I had these up here while you were reading through these. Appreciate you going through those, Coach. Um,
Yeah.
and again, traders, accept whether or not you want to adopt these things into your trading, right? That's really all this is. Again, all of us, and we can talk about the technical stuff. Everyone's going to see the markets technically different, but accepting these things, regardless of how you intend to approach the market with a technical understanding, is important, right? Think it goes for everyone. So really, thank you again, Coach, for going through these. Anything else on this before we go back to the charts?
Um, no, that's it. And for profiteers, if you're out there, I see someone asking, we're going to go over this tomorrow. Check out the Discord page. We'll go over it 7 and 11.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach. I'm going to pull these down for now. We'll go back to the charts. I'm not gonna lie, my live production game is getting pretty good. Uh, I'm like, hey, I think this is a graphic we can put up while Coach Paul is doing that. Um, but let's get back to these charts. We talked about the equities. Let's go into gold. I was looking to take a gold short last night in slow markets. You guys may remember this. Um, we were talking about a potential short in gold, going with the higher time frame trend of gold moving to the downside. We have yesterday's range kind of framed out here. And the initial short that I took, I'm going to remove some of this stuff so we can actually kind of clearly see what's going on with these charts. But the okay, there we go. Here's the 30-minute range. We got kind of extended from VWAP, and I talked about taking a short here around 50% of this range with my stop above 2640. I did get into the short with a couple micros around 2630 as we pushed into it, and trimmed most of the position when we hit this anchored VWAP and then got stopped out on the rest. It was, the trade idea eventually played out. I know in a shorter time frame, right? If we look at last night's open, we did have somewhat of an urgency move to the upside, which we talked about. Is this potential to buy this, or is this the pull up in the market to eventually get short? And that's kind of how I was seeing it, and is why I didn't take the long. You could have taken the long, right? Initially, if you're going with the shorter time frame, right? For the day, it's telling you to buy it. VWAP left that opening range down here to the upside, and that's a pretty nice trade if you took it, right? This is a 35-point move in gold to the upside before we turn around. So if that's the one trade you wanted to take, fine. If you're looking at a higher time frame, if we go kind of zoom out a little bit, Coach Paul, we're under the 200 moving average on the 30-minute. So this pull up to the 50 moving average, and I'll remove the drawings now. Pull up to the 50 moving average was that short opportunity somewhere near that 2640 area, and then right back down to where we open. Um, Pretty range bound day, but I think gold in this case was a nice two-sided trade where we had a one directional move to one side and then to the other side. Uh, but really nice move there.
And one other thing is, people, George, I see, said, now you're going to get me looking at VC. Oh, micro gold. The coach has said it's a $35 move last
Hmm.
night.
Yep,
That's $3,500 in the
in a mini.
COMEX. Well, in a micro, it's 350.
Yep,
The
it's good money.
range, the range. Don't don't think because you're trading micros that you're less than.
Yeah,
It's the account. I mean, $3,500 move overnight. Well, that wipes out just about every account in a combine
yep.
being wrong. So check
Uh,
out the
re-
micros.
Really nice move there. Let's go out to a daily really quick and see what we got here. Again, we rejected 50% of yesterday's range, kind of hanging out near the lows of that range, trying to decide what we do with this 2600 even level. I did see some interesting orders out there on the order book this morning. There was 181 contracts on the bid at 25.99.9. Uh, you can see we didn't trade 25.99.9. Um, and that was just and if JD's in the chat, we know we talked about that a little bit. That was an interesting area, right? 2600 major psych number. Anyone who's trading gold knows we're trading around 2600, and then someone puts a bid one tick below that. Anytime I see that, I'm just like, why are they not, at the whole number? Uh, just interesting to see. Uh, but a lot of times it looks like they're trying to support the market because there weren't any other big orders around there. We can see kind of worked, right? Getting in front of that, and we had a decent bounce from there as well. Anything else you got on gold, Coach?
Um, No, it's interesting. It got up to the 200. Um, couldn't get over it, could it?
No.
And once again, and which time frame was this?
This is a 30-minute.
Huh, still, um, tomorrow should be could be an interesting day. Like I said, we're slowly expiring on this year. We'll see. Um, good action though.
Good action for sure. And for Joe, the moving averages that we have here, the white one is the 200, the yellow is the 20, and purple is the 50. These are all simple moving averages. And the setup for gold later. Coach Vince and I are going to talk about what we see in gold tonight on slow markets. But could be some interesting price action for sure. Let's go to the energies, and we are going to skip over crude oil. Sorry for all our crude oil traders, but when D's not trading it, I'm not trading it. Uh, and why trade that when you can look at nat gas? Um, let's go to a 30-minute on nat gas. Jesus,
Looks like Bitcoin a month ago.
it looks like cocoa.
Kind of the same, isn't it?
It's just going up. Um, talk about urgency. There's the urgency, and they never stop buying it.
No.
Wow.
Uh, interesting move, like you said, that urgency came early. And we're looking, but what does that urgency mean? Well, that first half an hour made the low and the high to set the pace. VWAP curved up. So it tells us there's buyers. VWAP leaves the range relative within an hour and a half. But so what does that mean? I mean, I can talk. It's this is the bottom line. It's being bought.
Yep.
Not because the price is going up, but the volume is taking it up. The very important. Not what I like. I mean, this is um really good information.
Yep.
I can't say I've had any better information in 40 years. Um, does it mean it's going to work? No, but probability is high. And then we go back to the principles. All right, I'll take this. It shouldn't, if it's good, it shouldn't make a new low. Well, how much is that going to cost me? What is my risk? So if we break out, we buy it when the VWAP leaves. And then we put in a stop at new lows.
Might cost you a little bit with the micros, with the minis if we get down there. But remember, MNG, micro nat gas, if you are looking for risk management.
So is this the big one?
This is the big one. Yep.
How much is that?
Uh, I always mean to leave Quant Tower up on the side so I can do these quick measurements.
Uh,
But I think it's about,
$300, I think.
yeah, I was gonna say about 450. I think something
All
around
right.
there, depending on
Okay,
where you got
good.
it. Yep.
Let's just say 400.
Yep.
The mini is 1/4 of that. Can you afford that? Can you do two? So let's say the mini is a $125 risk, which is, some accounts that's a good risk.
Yep.
But what was the return?
It's 20 to 1. I don't know. It's a big move. Yeah,
And
you
this
were
is,
risking about, it was at least a 10 to 1, at least.
yeah. So, and I'm not saying you have to handle it for 10 to 1, but you're in a high probability. We talked about objectively identifying an edge. We've talked about this many times. Predefine the risk, accept it or don't take it, move on, don't hesitate, and pay yourself. If you got 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 10 to 1, that's the difference. But That's what confident trading is.
Uh,
Is if you lost 125, $150. Okay, if you're not willing to do that, don't trade.
we did get a question about the liquidity in micro nat gas. It's a good question. If I'm looking at the volume, the micros traded 8,400 contracts today. The minis traded 122,000. Um, so yeah, that is a good uh what word am I looking
Good
for there?
question.
Good question to
It's
ask,
good.
right? Good question to ask. Good thing to take into consideration, right? Is there going to be enough liquidity on the books in order to trade these markets? I would have loved to see that volume number be a lot higher, maybe somewhere near 20, 40,000. So that is a concern. But I think if you identify the trend, yeah, and there's definitely going to be slippage, right, in a live account for sure. Even in the sim account, you're going to see some slippage. If you identify a trend though, uh, trading the smaller contract might be worth trading with that spread, right? Because I don't know that I would be looking for a scalp in that gas, right? Especially if I catch the move early, right? We've seen this consistently be one of the biggest percentage movers. So I think innately I'm going to look for a trend and try to capture a piece of that move and maybe be okay paying the spread with the smaller size. How would you approach that, coach? Because that is an honest question.
I trade it all the time.
Okay.
There's one thing, it's the same if you trade mini crude.
Yep.
It's a trick, nothing against New York, but New York markets do this in their minis. They make it what I'll call a bastard tick. So it's 2.5 different. So you have to pay up a little if you're going to do the minis.
The micros.
So the micros or minis, either
Right.
one, they make it a weird. It's 2.5 ticks.
Okay.
So it has to. The big contract has to trade through you to get filled. And they do that for a reason. I don't want to go in deep into it, but just realize, can you afford it? And if you can afford the risk, the 1.5 ticks you're going to give up over is what, $20, $15.
Right.
Um, it's a price to pay, but
Yeah.
you there trade the big one. Oh wait, I can't. It's too. It's too all
Yeah.
right. The price, they exact a little bit of a toll. Do I enjoy it? No. Um, I accept it.
There you go.
Um,
Good answer on that. And good question to whoever asked that, right? Because that is a legitimate concern. Anytime I'm looking at a market, I'm looking to see whether or not there's enough liquidity on the books for me to get decent fills on my trades. Part of the reason I don't love trading the Nikkei. I know people make a ton of money trading it. When I look at that order book, it, the Nikkei traded 6,000 contracts today uh, with a $25 tick. To me, that's just a little bit too much, but it's a great market to trade. If you can afford it. Um, Nodar says, "Hi Jay, I only believe in your signals." It's a lot of high praise. Uh, what do you think NQ will show us today? Good long. Shit, that's a lot of pressure you just put on me there. I don't know if I can live up to that. I will assess the markets tonight. Um, if you've paid attention to how I view the markets, I'm not going to have an opinion about what they're going to do tomorrow. I have an idea. Again, 21,200 is a potential area to the downside. 21,800 is a potential target to the upside. I'm going to read how the markets play it and see which way they want to go. Um, we are already at time, coach. That went quick.
really? Wow. Well,
Oh,
we
wait,
we
we
talked.
started a little late too.
Yeah. Well, we spent some time on really important issues
Agreed.
because trading isn't just about guessing where the market's going. And I'll throw one other thing. Yeah, put some pressure on you. No doubt, put some pressure on you. But no doubt, know this: you have sooner or later, if you're going to be a trader, you have to make your own decisions.
100%.
You can follow someone else's lead or get some help there, but you know, you have to execute it. You have to accept the risk. You have to put it on, take it off, and manage it. So learn, but develop your strategy over time. When you do that, it's going to be a lot easier on you.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, that's a great point, right? If you like the way someone does something, figure out how they get to making decisions and then put it in your own words. Couple of quick questions we'll run through real quick before we get out of here. David Carty, is that the problem with platinum? Low liquidity. Platinum traded what 20,000 contracts today? I wouldn't say so. Anything 20,000 and up, I think is fine. Anything 10,000 or lower, I'm starting to question it a little bit. And then, could we expect net gas to pull back to the moving averages? Is it overextended now? Let's take a look. That's Nasdaq. This is nat gas. Are we getting overextended here? Maybe a little bit, right? We did see this in the Nasdaq. Let's look at a daily. We did see this in the Nasdaq where we got extended from those moving averages. We are above the. Let's go
200
to
day moving average.
yeah 200-day moving average. We're above. We are near this kind of higher time frame resistance. You see, the last time the market was up here, the decision that we made was to sell off. So got to keep that in mind, right? Am I looking for a breakout trade? If it presents it, great, but got to keep the higher time frame picture um, out there. So we will see. I'm almost willing to bet, and I'm not going to. And again, anything we say, I just put the top step risk disclosure in the chat. I'm gonna put it in one more time. I'm willing to bet that nat gas is going to be in the top 3 percentage movers, either to the upside or downside tomorrow. Not sure which way it's going to go, but I would gentleman's bet. I'll put $1 on that, coach.
I'll put two.
There we go. There we go. It's going to move. And again, anything we say here is for educational, sometimes entertainment purposes, not a suggestion to take a trade, but we go from there.
Yeah,
Uh, I got nothing else. I'll be on slow markets tonight again with Coach Vince. Trade well, trade smart, manage your risk. Coach, send us out.
all right, everybody, have a great evening or morning, and depending where you're at. Manage your risk. Think like a winner, and good luck tomorrow.
Have a great one. We will talk to you all soon. Bye.